Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So, the duality of AI and Muslim, what a big topic. I'm lucky that I have an amazing panel to have the discussion with. They're going to introduce themselves, but these are three people who I know have deep expertise, have got lots to say, and aren't afraid to voice their opinions. So I'm looking for a really lively panel. So by way of introduction, my name is Shaf Chowdhury. I'm the co-founder of RISTest. I'm an independent researcher into AI and ethics and co-editor of a book coming out, inshallah, this year at some point. It's AI and Islamophobia. I'm going to pass on to Taha to introduce herself.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you very much for being here and listening to me. Basically, I'm from an organisation called AI Qual, which is the home of the Artificial Intelligence Qualification Framework, and we help businesses implement good AI. I also co-authored the National AI Skills for Business framework, and we have been implementing a lot of that stuff. I've worked with various government programs, as well as implementing artificial intelligence into financing places, banks, and so forth. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Ahmad Hussain. I am founder of Horizon AI, former Google and Microsoft exec, and I help organizations, partners and clients adopt AI and data and machine learning solutions.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, my name is Isra and I'm research engineer at Duality. I've been in tech for more than 15 years now, and in machine learning specifically like about 5+ years, not counting my PhD. So happy to be here. I'm also like part of the Muslims Ali MG, so I was leading the Muslims Ali MG and I'm passionate about like mentorship generally, and also like sharing knowledge in machine learning generally to underrepresented communities. Yeah.
Thank you very much. To get things started with audience participation, put your hands up if you used ChatGPT, Anthropic, Claude for work or for personal use. Hands up. Practically everyone in the room. No, keep up, don't be shy, keep up. So you've got your hands up, right? So keep your hands up if you have read the terms and conditions. Okay. Okay, well, a couple hands up there. Do you work in law? Are you a lawyer? No. Okay. Are you? Pardon?
Data privacy.
Oh, excellent, mashallah, data privacy, right on my screen. So for those who hadn't read the terms and conditions, I urge you to, because did you know that ChatGPT has a racism disclaimer in their documentation? Oh, right. So on that topic, the first question to the panel. So what do you think are the most significant societal changes we'll see with the AI revolution, and why will they disproportionately affect Muslims? Again, I'm not talking about, oh, we use ChatGPT at work, that kind of boring question in my mind. What the primary, secondary, tertiary impacts? I'm going to start with you, Yusra.
Okay. So I honestly believe like it's still too early to think about societal changes for AI. So because it just started, right? So we know there will be a change, definitely. Things are not going to be the same, like for sure. Like in maybe 5 years from now, things are going to be very different. Like just the previous panels they were speaking about, okay, like now I have, like someone will have, like a restaurant will have their own AI agent and I will have my own AI agent. And the kind of communication is completely different. The kind of scale is completely different. So there will be a change, but it's not yet. How it's going to impact the Muslim disproportionately, I think like we can control this still. So I think like it's not too late for us to take action and get involved and change in a positive way. It's not easy, yes, because like I think like generally discrimination or like bias is inherent in the society, in the data, everywhere. So if you're just speaking about AI trains in data, and the bias in AI is from data, from society. I'm not saying that AI is like clear, has a clear hand, right? I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying like it's bigger than just like the training cycle, right? So yeah, so I think like it's too early, and I think probably like we will need to engage more and take more proactive actions to change the course of it to be in our favor. So.
That's a really Google employee answer. Feels well.
I think it was a great answer about it being too early, and especially as a researcher, is it still working?
Yeah.
And especially you being a researcher, we rely on research for our opinions. I think one of the things that we need to be conscious of is that generative AI isn't creative per se, it's actually retrospective, it looks back. We call it the AI mirror. So all of the issues that we see in current society, all of the biases that we see, whether it be the things like debanking that we talked about earlier, any discriminate or indiscriminate practices, actually all those errors are carried forward based on existing data. And I think that's something that we need to be conscious of. Whether it's AI or the implementation of any other technology or any other policy, you've always got to think about what the impact of that is going to be. So,
Yeah, I think the way I look at it is I compare it to the Industrial Revolution. I mean, we're in the north, right? So it's full of mills everywhere that are closed. And what happened when the Industrial Revolution came? There was, fear, and there was, people worrying about their jobs. And what we did with that in that era was we almost, we used machines to automate manual labor that we did in the factories. But I think the AI revolution, what's going to happen is we're automating vision, we're automating speech, we're automating translation, and that will have profound impact on the kind of work that people do and the kind of opportunities that are available for people. For example, when you're talking about automation, everybody wants to increase automation. Why? Because that delivers efficiencies in their businesses. So when you're delivering automation, when you're automating everything, that's going to have a disproportionate impact on the Muslim communities in the developing world, for example, because a lot of the most common tasks are offshored. Now, when you automate all of that, what's going to happen to the jobs? The jobs are not going to be there. So if you haven't invested if you haven't kept up to speed and up to date with this technology, there's a risk that we could be disproportionately impacted by this technology. So I think those are some of the key profound impacts. And there's other impacts like algorithm biases, for example, information, surveillance, that we could be impacted by disproportionately because the data is not trained with our type of, I'm talking about Muslim, your question was about Muslims being impacted, because the data is not going to have the data set that has Muslim or Asian type of faces in there that's been trained on.
So picking up on something you said there, Amr, about industrial revolution, and again, we're based in Manchester, and Manchester was the first industrial city in the world. But then also the industrial revolution wasn't great for everyone, right? Yeah. There's great automation for lots and lots of jobs, but these were jobs done by predominantly women and children before labour laws came into effect. And this automation caused a great deal of poverty. It drove lots of people into poverty. Now, do you think that, how far do we extend that industrial revolution metaphor for the current age? You mentioned we've got lots of empty mills that are being made into apartments. Will we see AI companies repurposed for something else in the future?
I think the key thing on that, actually, I think it's a great question. I think the key thing is understanding how to leverage the technology to your advantage. So everybody's using some form of Gen AI, some form of ChatGPT or whatever. But are you using it to advance your career, or are you using it just to create better Facebook posts? Right? What are you using it for? So it's the person who knows how to leverage and how to utilize this technology to leverage themselves or to take advantage of it will be, I think, successful in using it. I don't think there's there's nothing to worry about, there's nothing to kind of be fearful of. But we need to really catch up and start learning and understanding how best to leverage this technology to get the best out of it.
About a month ago, AQUAL were at Westminster presenting on artificial intelligence and the future of work. And basically, we were trying to influence policy, and we always talk about artificial intelligence risk versus reward. Most of the time, that's in the context of implementing AI into business, but also conversations like this about wider risk. There are two economic principles that I also always like to draw attention to, the first one in particular, which is the humanity's need and desire to always have more. So that need for saying, okay, well, just because we have AI and it's going to automate some jobs, that doesn't mean that new things are going to exist. There's a wonderful economist, and forgive me, I forget his name, but he talks about how it's not for us to care about the value of these new creations. Perhaps we don't care about Sky Yoga or Bitmoji or Snapchat, but other people do. So there's always this need to create more and consume more, and that is often one of the greatest drivers in society and will be for a while.
A question specifically for Yusra. You spoke about data and what causes it, and obviously that essentially, the biases that exist in society are reflected in AI. So it's not AI being racist in itself or Islamophobic. To what degree do you think the industry is self-regulating and putting these guardrails in place from developing these AI models, and what place does regulation have in this conversation?
Okay, so I'm not going to speak about like Google or DeepMind, but I'm going to speak generally. I think like now the government is taking like action, and the companies are following, the tech companies are following. This is the right way to do. So if you think about regulations, if you think about tech companies, what they want to do is that they want to have like a bigger user base, they want to make more money, they want to be successful, but like regulations is not in their first priorities, right? Until the government say, no, now you have to do this. And then everyone is like, oh, like, let's implement it, because it's important. If people are if you're going to have any audit, like, it's going to be problematic. We can't use data this way, we can't do that. We need to get we need to separate, like, for example, our product from using data, and so on and so forth. So I think, like, the government is the key here, right? So regulations is the most important part, even like for tech companies, and regulating, like, I think like regulating the unknown is difficult, right? Because like what's going to happen is still unknown. Like we still have like a vision about what's going to happen, but we're not certain yet. So regulating the unknown needs to have a very, very quick reaction from the government, or like basically being proactive, right? And getting involved more with the tech companies, discussing with them what's going on and so on, and also trying to take this into like policies and implement it and enforce it.
Yeah, I think this is a really important, very good question about regulation. I think there's this element of conflict of interest with self-regulation. If you've got people like Google and Microsoft and these guys regulating themselves, they're not going to be that worried about the consumers' rights and market. They're going to do what's in their interest to gain more profit off the market. I think it needs to be a hybrid role. I think the government needs to get involved. There needs to be guidelines. There needs to be policies. There needs to be audits. There needs to be checks in place. There needs to be fines in place. There needs to be there needs to be a body set up that can really police this. Because if they don't do this now, right, you've got no chance of doing this in 2 years' time. Even look at the social media. Well, how is that regulated? Then you can do what you like in a way, and you don't get. I've heard of stories about people doing all sorts of stuff on social media, and the police not being able to track down the perpetrators for this. So I think it's a very, very important topic that needs to be dealt with.
Interesting insights there. I think with regard to specifically as Muslims. We're often, as Muslims, we have conversations about the permissibility of things. We talk about is our meat halal, right? Mm-hmm. And then the conversation has gone from is meat halal to is the meat tayyib? Is it sound? Is it wholesome? And I think everyone here, when crypto first came along, how many is crypto halal workshops were out there? Do we need to have a conversation about how permissible AI is? And of course, I'm biased, and you're still looking at me thinking, Shafi, you're very biased for the question. But but how should we consider the ethical and environmental impacts of unethical resources extraction of minerals for the chips that run AI and the data center, the amount of water they use, etc. Again, very biased question, but Tahir, let's start with you.
All right, let's have a go. See if I can agree with Shaf. I don't actually know what their opinion on this is. But look, as Muslims, it's our responsibility to make sure that we consume halal, we do halal throughout our lives. Islam, being a Muslim, is not something that we do as a hobby. And we've been talking about all day about what that means to us in the workplace, but also in our personal lives. When we talk about unethical mining and unethical resource extraction, it's really important for us to be conscious of that. We also need to know, I was about to say however, but actually it's not a however, that the instrumentation used in some of our mobile phones, our laptops, most recently the machine, not being able to deny that they're not using slavery-picked cotton from Uyghur Muslims in China. Let's be conscious of where our fashion comes from. Let's be conscious of every element of our life. I understand where the question is coming from. Of course, this is an AI panel, but there are so many things we should consider, is my point.
I completely agree. It's like it's part of the capitalist growth, like exploiting resources, I say resources in terms of like natural resources and also human resources. Of like the powerful countries are using the less powerful countries, which is not the best scenario. I think like we need alternatives as well. So, for example, in fashion, like you will find like more ethical like brands now coming, and people are more aware where actually these clothes are made from. So we need something similar in tech. So, in order, for example, in order to replace my phone with something more ethical, I can't just give up my phone or my laptop. I can do my work, right? Yeah. But like, are there alternatives to like sourcing like materials from like more ethical? You know, currently there isn't.
Yeah.
So do you think, so just to pick up what you said there, do you think that just with like the fashion industry, we've got sustainable fashion, we've got all these initiatives for green fashion and that kind of thing, and really examining the supply chain. Do you think there's a space for ethical AI and that kind of thing?
I think there should be. So currently there isn't because like it's not going to make a profit.
They've just disbanded the DEI.
Yeah.
They've just closed down all the DEI functions are Meta. I don't know if anybody knows.
Yeah.
So there isn't much going on in this space from the big tech players. But you need more transparency in the supply chain. You need to know what's being taken from where. The profits that are being used for these things need to be shared more evenly across the communities that they're being taken from. So they need to be. I think we need to work with this process. The other thing is that there's still a lot of development to go with these technologies. Is AI, because at the moment the way that the algorithms are trained, as I will tell you, they consume a lot of data, and there's a lot of labeling that's involved in these data sets that you have. So there's a lot of manual labor that you need to have in place, a lot of it. So as the technology moves forward and as it develops, you will start to see a little bit less load on more manual kind of practices, because we're hoping to see if AI a lot of the data that's out there at the moment on the internet is for AI. Well, a lot of it is AI generated. So the more it gets generated by AI, we can leverage the tooling that we have, the technology we have, to reduce the burden on manual labor and try to do something with our practices.
And if I can add to this, like, I think with Muslims we are also basically empowered and required to speak up, right, and to change. But like, in order to change, we need to learn. We need to educate ourselves. We need to be basically also to learn the skills that are required to get involved in AI, for example, chip manufacturing and so on. So if you have more people in this field that think about ethics, things are going to change and shift, right? So I think we have responsibility to get engaged, to learn, to be there, to speak up when we can, When we see things that is not right, we speak up to change it. Because, like, if you're not, for example, working, if I'm not working at Google, for example, there are certain things that I will not be able to have access to say, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's similarly for everyone in their place. Like,
I had the same issue.
Yeah.
You know, the whole the Gaza issue, you're not allowed to speak about it in a lot of these tech companies. If you did, you'll see the consequences for them. And a lot of people did, but they can't be themselves. So as a Muslim, you know, you either have a choice of keeping your mouth shut and getting on with it, or you speak out and then you put your job on the line for speaking out. So this is why we need to, I 100% agree with you also have this, that we need to empower ourselves to be able to be who we want to be and to really be. By the way, I have a workshop after this that we can come to learn more about. Happening today, so.
I mean, really great kind of segue, I think, to the kind of ending part of the debate. I mean, this is a debate that we could have for hours, I'm sure. But I think the great thing about specifically the panel is that we've got a great spectrum of like deep tech working in Google. We've got Amr who's worked at Google and Microsoft and he's doing consulting now, and Tahir is doing incredible work on AI, you know, how companies migrate to AI and the considerations, not only technical but also business and environmental factors. So,
And how it might be about an idea, really honest about.
to kind of the last part of this debate, something we've not spoken about, and it's worth noting, is that how AI warfare, the place of AI in warfare, and we've seen that in Gaza right now, and how that's being tested on Palestinians. It's probably with its own conversation, but with the interest of time, and I hope to be the first panel that finishes on time. The last part of the conversation I'm going to be is like, on a more positive note, because it's all very doom and gloom, Shaft, you bringing it down, you're killing the vibe. But what about how do Muslims participate in a meaningful way with AI revolution? So that not so much that we get left behind because we're saying, oh, AI is haram. That's not what I'm saying, but just to kind of have these proclamations. But at the same time, how do we participate in a meaningful way, more than just using it in our workplace? What would your advice be?
Educate ourselves. There is an absolute amazing pool of knowledge out there. And look, I'm a little bit biased as well because of my role in the National AI Skills Business Framework. And I know you said beyond the workplace, but in terms of having a seat at the table, this framework actually goes to every single business role, what your role is, what specific certificates and what standards of training you need to achieve in order to be qualified for a particular role, and it allows you to make a case for yourself and it allows you to grow. So that can be one place that you can start having a look at if you're interested.
I mean, I think one of the things that AI has done is democratize knowledge and access to knowledge. So I can sit down and learn about anything that I want to learn about and pick it up. Depending on how focused you are, how dedicated you are, you pretty much pick up whatever you want to pick up. Like Nusra was saying, you can have your own agent that does that for you. It's all about using the technology to your advantage, and I think you can do it. And so we need to get more representation from a Muslim perspective. I think the other side is that we critically evaluate what we are using, the applications that we are using that involve AI. Is it the right thing to be doing, and what we are doing with them? Second thing. And the third thing is to be able to get involved and have a dialogue in a lot of these initiatives that are out there. There's a ton of opportunity in this space right now. And I think we have to take advantage of it. There's a huge amount of opportunity. That's all I'll say.
You sort of bring us home with a positive ending.
Yeah, I think like I do agree with what's said so far. I think we need more, like otherwise, we need more engineers and more researchers in the field of AI. So more like people with the technical knowledge, right? Of course, policies and everything, but I'm biased to my field because I see the shortage. So first of all, like, it's necessarily for us now. So there are, I know like in Islam we have Fardain and Fardu Kifaya, so I think like now AI has to be like a priority for Muslims, next generation. So if you have any young generations in your family, please talk to them about AI, about technology, about AI research, and see ways for them to get into this field and seek education in this field as well. And now AI education and tech education is easier than before. So we have a lot of online resources. I'm not saying online resources is the only way to go. Of course, there is a university route and everything. So, but it's much easier now than before. But we do need people with deep technical knowledge, because this is gonna be the next phase of humanity, right? So if you're not on the map, then you'll not be able to change a lot of things. And instead of working on advance, it's gonna work against us, and this is what we don't want to happen, right?
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I just want to thank you all for a brilliant panel. I would encourage everyone to connect with the three panelists on LinkedIn. Really fascinating, connect all three of them. So, Jazakallah khair. A round of applause to the panel, please. Good question.